dark secret of room 306. A secret that freezes the very blood in your veins just by remembering it. Everything began on a stormy night. Heavy rain lashed against the taxi windows. I pulled up in front of the stone building of the Grand Lucia Hotel. The mountain mist was so thick and heavy that the hotel looked like a forgotten shadow in the dead of night. A dim and terrifying shadow. I grabbed my luggage and stepped into the hotel lobby. Behind the reception desk stood an elderly man. Without saying a single word, he handed me the key to room 214. But as I turned to grab my bags and head toward the stairs, the old man suddenly grabbed my wrist. Serious, and in a low, heavy voice, he said, "Son, do not go to the top floor. This place is built on land that its owner has still not forgotten." When I heard those words, I thought to myself that the poor man was saying these things out of old age or superstitious beliefs. I ignored it and went to my room. Due to the extreme exhaustion of the journey, I fell into a deep sleep very quickly. My sleep was so heavy that it felt as if all the sounds of the world had been muted. Exactly at 2:03 a.m., a metallic sound echoed through the hotel hallway. A terrifying sound, as if someone was scratching iron pipes with their fingernails. Knock, knock, knock! But I was so tired that my eyes only opened for a split second, and I drifted right back into a deep sleep. The next morning when I woke up, the hotel had a strange atmosphere. It felt as if doomsday had passed. All the staff looked exhausted, pale, and worried. The receptionist girl looked at me with hesitation and asked, "Sir, did you not hear anything last night?" I said, "Yes, I think there was a problem. Did you hire workers?" Because there was a constant sound of iron being dragged on the floor. Hearing this, her face suddenly tightened, and she went silent. Right at that moment, one of the staff members passing by said in a trembling voice, "Last night the elevator was moving between floors for no reason. And on the top floor, the doors were opening and closing on their own." The elderly man who had given me the key yesterday stepped forward immediately to calm the situation. He turned to the staff and said in a sharp, stern tone, "The elevator is just slightly broken. Everyone get back to your work." I tried to keep myself occupied. I ate my breakfast and talked to one of the staff members in a corner again. What I heard was unbelievable. He said that there is a ghost in this hotel that appears on weekends in one of the rooms on the top floor. A ghost with an alias who had mysteriously and secretly been destroyed in this building years ago because of his wealth. Hearing the waiter's words, I laughed at first. I told myself, "What nonsense is this you are making up? Ghosts are not real." But the truth was, fear was dripping from every corner of the hotel. As sunset approached, you could feel that there was no living soul or refuge in this building. It felt as if everyone wanted to escape from here as soon as possible. I still did not sense any danger, while I should have realized why everyone was fleeing. That night, I returned to my room. I was under the shower when I heard that same sound from the night before. It was around 11 o'clock at night. I thought to myself that maybe the reflection of the water sound in the bathroom made me mistaken. But when I stepped out of the bathroom, nothing was there. However, the atmosphere of the hotel was heavier than before, as if something had awakened in the heart of the building. I tried to calm down, and after a few minutes, I fell asleep. But exactly at 2:03 a.m., I woke up again to that same metallic sound. I thought the workers had returned, but when I peeked out of my room, there was no sign of any workers. Everything was drowned in a sinister silence. Suddenly, the elevator started moving entirely on its own, with no one inside. It went up from the lower floor and then suddenly plunged back down. Along the hallway, the doors of the rooms were opening and closing one after another without any hand touching them. It felt as if the entire hotel building had come alive and wanted to swallow me. Out of sheer terror of a heart attack, my body went numb. There was nothing I could do. I wanted to call the front desk, but when I picked up the phone, I realized there was absolutely no signal. I curled up in fear. I put the phone aside and pulled the blanket back over my head, in the vain hope that this thick cloth could protect me from the shadows in the room. The next morning, I could not stay in that hotel for even one more second. I grabbed my suitcase and left that place. But I felt like I hadn't fully detached from that sinister environment. A strange heaviness weighed on my shoulders. I felt as if someone was following me step by step and walking alongside me. Yes, it was as if something had followed me out of the hotel. When I returned home, I realized the nightmare was not over yet. In the middle of the night, exactly at 12 o'clock, I was in my own bedroom when that same horrific sound of something dragging on iron came after me. This time, I truly thought I was done for. I told myself that the entity was probably after my blood. Fear and loneliness were about to crush me when I suddenly remembered Edward, my friend who had been researching paranormal phenomena for years and was highly skilled in this field. I rushed to my mobile phone, but the phone had no signal. How was that even possible in my apartment? When I completely lost hope, suddenly all the objects in the house began to shake, as if an earthquake had hit. Everything was being thrown into the air and scattered. Out of absolute panic, I ran toward the exit door and fled without even closing it. I went straight to Edward. I recounted the whole story of the hotel, the rooms, the sounds, and what happened in my house. When I finished talking, Edward fell into a deep and heavy silence. Suddenly, I remembered the rumors about the 7th floor, and I told Edward. They used to say there are no more floors up there, but I am sure there is another hidden floor above the hotel, a sealed room. Edward paused deeply upon hearing this and said, "Whatever it is, it started from that very room. The reason that spirit came after you all this time is because of the insult you made to its presence. It has now turned into a vengeful and spiteful spirit. We must resolve this issue as soon as possible, otherwise we will face massive tragedies." With Edward's help, we returned to the hotel. Edward spoke with the hotel manager. Since they were also heavily involved in this horrific situation, they cooperated with us without any objection. Edward said it was best to start the work in the dead of night. We waited. But the hotel was quieter this time, yet it was a heavier and more daunting silence than ever. Exactly at 2 in the morning, we went to the top floor. The door to room 306 opened completely and without any force for the very first time. It was as if the entity inside the room was also trapped there, waiting impatiently for someone to save it and let it go to its eternal peace. Inside the room, everything was old, dusty, and untouched. Edward placed the candles on the table, lit them, and began whispering a ritual chant under his breath. I did not know what he was reciting, but whatever it was, the atmosphere of the room changed drastically. Suddenly, the air turned bone-chillingly cold. The flames of the candles began to tremble, as if someone was gently blowing on them. A strange sense of heaviness and suffocation filled the room. Edward said in a very low, whispered voice, "He is here." Hearing this, my breath caught in my throat, and my entire body shook with terror. Edward paused and continued, This is no ordinary spirit. This is a true wandering soul, but he is not wandering because of death itself. He is here because of a great injustice done to him. Edward began to search the space carefully, until a corner of the wall caught his attention, an old wooden panel that was completely and skillfully hidden. By pushing that panel aside, a small hidden space inside the wall was revealed. Amidst the dust, there were half-burnt documents, a piece of ownership deeds, and a clear name: Ethan Morgan. Along with these documents, there were some personal items like a wristwatch and an old pen. Seeing these items and documents, Edward said in a low, deep voice, he was not just destroyed here, but along with his entire truth. He was buried right here. The truth of the story was never fully revealed, and that is why he has been trapped here. Suddenly, the air in the room grew intensely cold. A soft, blurred voice echoed in the room, a voice that was not terrifying, but seemed extremely exhausted, innocent, and helpless. The spirit of Ethan Morgan finally revealed its presence completely. Edward immediately began performing the ritual and reciting ancient prayers. In an instant, it felt as if a violent storm and earthquake erupted inside the room. Objects shook and the wind blew fiercely, but Edward continued chanting his prayers and whispers with absolute resolve, not stopping for even a single second. I don't know how much time passed. Time had stood still for me. Gradually, the storm and earthquake completely stopped. The light of the candles settled, and within the dark aura of the room, a human shadow began to take shape. The shadow became clearer. The spirit of Ethan Morgan materialized, exhausted, but this time peaceful. He said in a low, whispered voice, "So finally, the truth has been found." Edward looked into the eyes of the shadow, smiled gently, and said, "You are no longer trapped here." A few moments of absolute silence enveloped the entire place. Then, a soft white light covered the whole room, and the shadow slowly faded into the air. The hotel became peaceful again. But this time, that heavy and daunting silence was gone. It felt as if something that had been trapped in that wall and room for years was finally set free. And now, only one thing remains. 2:03 a.m. Sometimes, if you listen very closely, there is no more fear. Only a strange peace can be felt in the hallways. It feels as if someone has finally found their home and gone to an eternal sleep. What do you think? In your opinion, has he completely achieved eternal peace now or not? Write your thoughts in the comments for me.